Good morning. I'd like to introduce Zara Riahi, CEO of Contillo, CEO and founder. Amazing background, civil engineer, master's in earthquake science, MBA from London School of Business, and just an amazing entrepreneur. So Zara, tell me about Contillo. Give me an overview of the product and service and how you're interfacing with construction technology.
Sure. Contillo is the world's first 3D AI platform, which provides actionable insights from 360-degree imagery and 3D data, that is LiDAR scans captured from construction sites in real time and automatically, so that the construction companies can understand, predict, and improve the performance of their construction projects and operating assets. We fully automate progress tracking, installation quality verification, and predictive risk management, all from a central platform. And in the process, build semantic digital twins, meaning everything in the digital twin has meaning assigned to it, and you can track them during the construction and after it's done during the operations.
Excellent. So you're really getting into the construction management side. Can you tell me a little bit about your background and how you became interested in this field and your passion for it?
Yeah, sure. So I actually grew up in a family where my dad was a CEO of a big company, but also an entrepreneur, and built real estate always on the side. So I kind of grew up on the construction sites. And when I was in high school, I became very interested in earthquakes because I wanted to become an engineer to do something that was very challenging, dealing with like lots of data, but at the same time had an impact on the lives of the people. And pretty much that's who I am. I like doing challenging things, solving big problems, but also bringing impact to the society because of that. And so I did my civil engineering degree at the University of British Columbia, followed by a master's in earthquake engineering, where I developed nonlinear models using what we call AI. Today, I did a lot of image processing, signal processing, all those cool things that are the background of 3D computer vision of today. And then I worked in the construction industry for 5 years as a project engineer manager and in project financing, mostly bigger projects, and many of them were late. They were suffering from a lot of cost overrun, and we really didn't know what was going on in real time. And people were working actually really hard. They were very nice people who were working really hard. So, and if I did something small to bring innovation to the design or construction, we ended up saving 20 million in just like 2 hours, which was a lot of money. And so I always loved construction because it was very complex, bringing so many parties together, but I also hated it because it was wasteful. And so when I did my MBA and I worked in many different industries and for different companies, from startups to private equity to consulting to from a bank leading open banking and investing in startups, I thought it's now the time to go and change the industry that I've always cheered for. And that's why we're here.
Excellent. You mentioned several problems in the construction industry, especially in the construction management space, the interaction between so many people, the complexity such that it's impossible for one person to be able to manage so much. Can you talk specific areas of waste that Contillo is addressing using your AI platform and your 3D imaging and so on?
Yeah, sure. So when you're building an asset, you need to understand a bunch of things to make sure that it stays always on track, specifically for complex systems that are construction projects. Those are progress against your schedule or plan that tells you how you need to be building an asset over time, quality of what you're building against the specifications that you had, and also the recent issues, so that you can remove them from the system and they're small before they get big and impact other areas of the projects. But in construction, these are done only based on 5 to 10% of the data that is collected manually by a lot of people and analyzed even more manually in silos by people. And as human beings, we cannot bring like a lot of information together and say, these 10 things from 10 different directions are resulting in such a recent issue. As a result, mostly people make their decisions based on their intuition and experience or outdated information, and only get to recent issues when they've turned into really bigger things with a lot of compounding effect. And so so that feedback loop on progress, quality, and recent issues completely broken. If you compare this to manufacturing, we have the insights in manufacturing every few minutes. In construction, we have them at best every 4 to 8 weeks. So that is like if you had a Google map in your hand that was 2 years old and you wanted to drive from one city to the next. It was very detailed. It had all the coffee shops, all the turns, everything. But you start using it and you're like, oh, this doesn't actually match where I'm going. And you get to a fork and ask me, what should I do? And I tell you, wait there for 4 weeks and I'm just going to tell you what to do next. You're not going to be able to do that. So if you know your area, you've worked on a similar project, you can kind of handle it if the project is as small as, but if not, you're gonna run into many, many different issues that are gonna become more and more complex as time goes by. And it's very important to have a systematic understanding of how projects are changing over time, because right now we don't have that. At best, we have 360-degree photos of constructions that show you visually how they are changing, but you don't know what is happening in the background. And so that's what we are trying to solve. So in terms of the wastes, productivity is pretty low. There are many people involved in progress and quality tracking. And because they don't know what they're doing, they end up, of course, spending a lot more time and effort than they should be doing. So productivity is one area. Cost of rework is the second area, which is quite big for construction projects. And usually when you get to an error that it's too late and many other things have happened around it or on top of it or adjacent to it. And so you not only need to fix that component, but many other things or put many other areas of the project on hold. So as a result, there is like a lot of indirect costs built into this process. And with that comes waste, because you need to rebuild things, you need to use more material, you need to use more water, you need to use many more people. And so that results into waste. And as we know, construction is one of the biggest contributors to CO2 emissions in the world. So these are some of the key areas of waste that we are addressing here. And of course, we reduce the cost and improve the time to market for the projects.
Excellent, excellent. You know, you bring up a very good point that we're in the construction industry always reacting. We're not being proactive in anything that we do. We're always reacting to problems that are showing up or quality issues. Can you talk a little bit about some of the technologies that you're bringing to help to, one, make the information lag significantly less instead of weeks, you know, down to days and maybe even minutes, and then the proactive potential as well?
Yeah, so right now, because we don't have the real-time information that is correct and structured and scalable, it's really hard to predict into the future. And so some people talk about predictive. In design, we're very good. Like we exactly know what we've designed. We have really amazing BIM models. Everything is awesome. But as soon as you get to the construction, everything falls apart. Because you start executing, of course, and there are many more people in the process. And so let's say for a project that was a building and it was 500 million, you can collect the LiDAR scans every week, let's say. The volume of this data is going to be around like 80 to 100 megabytes, sorry. And then we consume this data. Number one, it doesn't look like construction because the LiDAR scanner has gone outside and grabbed whatever that even does not belong to the construction site. And so our system automatically detects what belongs to the construction and only tracks those elements. What that means is we reduce the volume of the data right now 20-fold. So that's the number one benefit for the construction industry. As they're grabbing data, they want to use them for other things. They want to store them, of course, and so they're not going to pay as much for doing those things, and they can do that at better speed. From there on, we use a technology that is similar to what is used in autonomous driving to, number one, put the point cloud completely automatically together with the BIM. We don't interfere, it just happens automatically. And then from there on, assign a meaning to every point. So every point of a point cloud has an intelligence assigned to it in a sense that it understands, I belong to this structural element that is a wall, for example. I am wall number 1, 2, 3 in the BIM, task number ABC in the schedule. And so let's see if I was built correctly and if I am behind a schedule or ahead of a schedule or on time. And so we do this for all the structural, architectural, and service elements throughout the construction. And then we bring them up to a level that makes sense and communicate the insights to the user. So the user is going to not only see these insights, but also see the BIM, the 3D design, together with the site data, which is the point cloud, together with the images, and navigate this system. So if you were, for example, mechanical, you can only focus on the mechanical part of the model and the issues and deal with those. And as you record them, you can, like, of course, come back to them. You can communicate them with other people in your organization and focus on resolving the issues rather than just running after data and analysis constantly. So as a result, we reduce the time quite significantly to get to the insights that are automatic. So we don't give just, let's say, the point cloud or the photos and say, look, they look awesome, you can navigate them, but the rest of the job is up to you. Go and figure them out. But we also don't claim that we're going to do everything from A to Z, because this is going to help the people who are going to resolve the issues to know what exactly they need to resolve in what order. So it's going to, like, help improve their lives and augment their decision-making process.
Excellent. You know, some amazing technologies that you baked in that you kind of mentioned that you brought from your educational background and some of the other startups, bringing them all in to form a very nice convergence and to deliver such value. You mentioned something kind of interesting, two things that, you know, you take these LiDAR scans. Are you doing anything in the area of safety or proactively giving those BIM construction overlays to, say, mechanical contractors so they know exactly what they have prior to coming into the job?
Yeah. So in terms of the safety, we don't track safety on the site, because in order to do that, you need to have a computer vision system that tracks people, equipment, how they're interacting with each other. So sometimes people actually from the construction companies ask us, but it's really impossible to do everything just from one company, because what we do is very, very difficult on its own. Right. From safety perspective, however, because we automate these processes, number one, people don't need to be on the site to collect data. So right now, specifically, they need to have remote access not only to the site data, but to the insights, so that they know exactly what's happening in terms of progress, quality errors, and they can remove the recent issues. And right now, we all know that many projects are delayed, and asset owners and financiers are even more strict in terms of give us data, because we need to know exactly what is happening before we give you your money or your payment. And so it's just going to help the construction companies from those perspectives. And then number two, because you have the insights, you don't need to send 10 other people on top of each other to check everything one more time to understand if the person before has done an objective job of doing the reporting. If they've checked like 10%, you want to check another 5% on top of it to just say, you know what, for progress, we checked 10%, for quality, we checked another 5%, to make payment, we checked another 5%, to ensure, we checked another 2%. So we just send people on top of people to do this. So from that perspective, we contribute to safety. And also, the other question that you asked was related to, I forgot what it was.
It was related, do you take these information and the BIM and the point cloud overlay and provide them to upcoming contractors so they have the latest information, so they're ready and so they're productive from the time they step on the site?
We actually don't do that directly, but the number of the users for the construction companies, let's say, it's like kind of unlimited to a reasonable degree, of course. And so like a couple of our customers have done that. So they have like given them access so that they know exactly what is happening, or because they know right now there is a delay, they know that these guys should not show up tomorrow to the site, as opposed to them coming and they're like, oh, sorry, you can't do your job, go back and come back in 10 days from now. So from those perspectives, they know what is happening. Now, in the future, as I'm sure you do know, one of the key problems of construction is the intelligence resides in a project, and usually it sits on one or two people's computers. But like this, once you use it for different projects, you can bring the intelligence from one project to another project. Let's say, I've learned that we're doing these things really well and we're doing these things really badly, or there is room to improve. So let's just make sure that we are not going to repeat the same mistakes for the next project, because usually we do. We usually repeat the same mistakes through the process. And so there is opportunity to improve collectively as a portfolio from that perspective, but also for one project based on everything that has happened to date, then say, what are the top 2 to 3 things that you can do to make sure your project is going to stay on track for the next 6 months or so?
Excellent. We talked in generalities. Can you give me some specific examples of a company or two that you're working with and some of the results from them?
Yeah, sure. So we are working with big construction companies, the general contractors. We are not working with the subcontractors, let's say. So example in the UK is Balfour Beatty, which is like the biggest contractor here in the UK. And we are working with them on a number of projects. Let's say one of them is transport infrastructure. And so we've been verifying the quality of everything that they've been installing so that they could report that back to the asset owner and say, you know, things are installed correctly, also progress. But also they use this to get their money from the asset owners. So in terms of saying, look, for progress payments, we've done this now, give us our money, so that they have better cash flow. The other example is one of the big energy companies, so an asset owner globally that builds renewable energy. For the first example, we brought the data using 360-degree cameras and LiDAR, on the ground LiDAR. But for the second, because renewable assets are quite big, so if you wanted to go and collect data using like a handheld scanner, let's say, it's going to take forever. So they use, of course, drones. We analyze them automatically in 3 to 6 hours. And we just told them what the progress of like their sites, which are really, really big, are in like matters of few hours. And let's say the site is in the US, they're sitting here in Europe, they know exactly what has happened, and they can plan for the future of their projects. And when it comes to renewables, as an example, you have a power purchase agreement. So every day you're late, you need to pay a fine before you bring it to the market. So from like schedule acceleration is pretty key for them. They're building assets that are renewable, so sustainability is quite key for them. They don't want to send people to the site and spend lots of money on travel and airplanes and contribute to pollution, of course, more. And they want to make sure that they can track things for 100% of their sites automatically and save time for their people. So those are some of the things that they are looking at.
You said something very interesting, that you verified that tasks are completed, therefore the subcontractors can be paid and it helps their cash flow. I heard that some subcontractors have said that they could actually lower their price if they could get paid sooner.
Yeah, so
go ahead.
we actually hear this quite a lot from general contractors, because we just did a piece on like quality verification, and they usually go, when you talk to them at the beginning, they go, quality verification is not my job. It's the job of the subcontractor. I just got to make sure that they do it through a process. But what they don't realize, and what we explain to them, and I usually ask them a bunch of questions like, who is responsible for delivering a quality asset? They go like, I am. And I go like, if you don't deliver, who is going to get hurt? Who is not going to get the next job? I am. If there are errors, what is going to happen? You're going to get more delay and cost overrun. Who is responsible for those? I am. And as you said, the subcontractor, because they know all these things, I mean, they need to live, right? So they're just going to add like 5 to 10% to their costs. And they know that they usually, like the asset owners, keep 10% of the contractor's money usually for like a year or so. And the contractor also keeps 10 to 20% of the subcontractor's money. And they take these things into consideration when they want to put their bid forward. And before you know it, the project is 10, 20% more expensive.
Exactly. So describe who you feel could benefit most. Who are your key customers? Who do you see that your Contillo can actually benefit the most? Is it multinational? Is it national? Is it regional players? Or is it everybody?
It actually doesn't matter so far as you're like building projects. So we never go to projects that are like smaller than 10 to 20 millions. So if you're building projects that are, let's say, 1 to 10 million, we are too expensive for those folks. So they need to be companies that are building like the bigger projects. At least they have those in their portfolios. And so for them, they have some basic technology already on board, or they have a plan to actually get there. Besides that, we don't care if they're regional or multinational or they're building on Mars, because we are not a data collection company. And so far as we can get access to their data in a streamlined manner, we can analyze and put them back into their system. Now, we are not working with companies or countries that are very different when it comes to culture or ways of doing things. Example of those are Korea, Japan. They do things very, very differently from let's say the UKs and Australias and Canadas and USs of the world. And so as a result, we are not right now, we are not working with them because it takes a long time for us to even like communicate and understand the same thing. So in terms of the type of the companies though, the general contractors who are building the assets, the asset owners who own and sometimes operate the assets, because they need to have the oversight. They need to understand how the contractors are performing. They need to they are going to pay for the assets anyways. And so they're going to operate them after they're built. So they need the digital twin to understand what is in there, so that let's say if you're a retail owner and 3 years down the road, you want to go and remodel this retail area. You're like, oh my God, I don't have any drawings. Let's just hire an army of people to understand what is what. And even then you don't know, you're gonna run into a lot of trouble. So from those perspectives, asset owners are important. And later on, we're gonna also go to, we actually already have like a couple of customers in this area, but not at a scale, investors. So investors give a lot of money to the construction industry, but they don't know what's going on during construction. So construction risk is pretty big. They update their multiples based on a person who goes and checks the work of 10 other people. And as a result, they need to put that into their risk factors, to the risk profile of the project, and also reserves that they need to put on the side. And so for them, it's a risk management tool so that they can lower the risk to back better projects or even more projects.
Excellent. So tell me how COVID has impacted you.
Me as a person or Contillo?
Contillo.
I think COVID has done to construction what the 2009 financial crisis did to the financial industry. I completely believe that. If you look at the finance industry, you will see that around the mark of 2010 and 11, all these big companies that we know today, startups are those days. And they started to grow really fast, and banks started investing a lot of money into technology right after. Right now, I would say 2 to 3 months into COVID, a lot of the projects went on hold, or they were slow, or people were trying to figure it out because nobody knew what to do, to be honest. But now 3-4 months ago, I would say we've been receiving a lot more demand from people, because now they know that they can't get access to the sites. As I said, they need to do more data-driven reporting. They need to make sure that they are compliant. They need to get their money. They already have cash flow problems. They know that there are going to be disputes, so they need to back the disputes with really good data and information. And photos, I want to say, are not enough, because if there is quality issue, photos are not gonna communicate them. You wouldn't know who has done what at one point when you're looking at a photo, no matter if you have it like over the life of the project or just one photo. It's good on a structured digital record. So from those perspectives, people are looking at adopting technology a lot faster, and they're streamlining their digital transformation, which is really good to see. I don't think they're going to go back.
That's really accelerated something that would have eventually happened.
Yes,
like you said, in fintech as well. So we're actually seeing the future because it had to be pulled in for safety reasons and COVID reasons. So let's look at how Contillo could integrate itself to be a core process within, say, a national or an international construction company. What would it look like?
So the way it usually works is because this is new technology, we usually deploy it on like the top of 1 or 2 or 3 projects at the same time, but we don't wait for those projects to be done. So if a project was like 5 years, it's not like we're going to wait for 5 years before we bring this to the enterprise. And then at the same time, so people usually go like, this sounds cool, but does it really work? Can we really use it? Is it going to really give me good information, insights, and value? And so initially they're kind of like, yeah, I'm not sure. I want to try it, but I'm not sure. But as soon as they see the insights, they're like, oh yeah, this is really cool. I didn't even know that I needed this. And then from there on, it's about putting the business case together and making sure that we are bringing value to them, because the reason why we are here, yes, the technology is cool, that doesn't matter, is to solve the construction industry's problem. and also make sure that the 5 trillion that is going to waste right now, hopefully goes to building better things in the world.
Exactly. If you could take and even get a portion of that 5 trillion,
Exactly.
the waste and so on is just absolutely amazing. So I'm a multinational contractor. I have a project going in the US, one in UK, and say one in France. Can I have almost like a data center, a hub where I can see all the projects and not necessarily have to wait to get reports in from the various sites?
Yeah, that is exactly the way it works. So you can like look into all of your projects from a central platform. You don't need to be in the country. You don't need to be on the site, and you can analyze the data right now, 5 minutes from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And because if you manage to get the data from the sites, that's it. And then we are just going to analyze them and show them back to the customer through the customer portal. So as I said, if your site is in the US and you're UK based or you're Asia based, doesn't matter really. You can look at the insights. You can even like work with your colleagues in the US, let's say, and just work together to solve some of those problems.
I it's really amazing because, like you say, you connect projects that are very disparate, and having those insights and how maybe one project solved a situation could be then used in another because you have those almost real-time insights. Can you briefly touch on the fact that the learnings from one project, if you're, when you do kind of a post-mortem, hey, we weren't too good at this, we, had to rework this. Can you tell me how you could take and the AI within your program takes all the learning from all the projects to help, improve the next project?
Yeah, so if you only have one project on the system, it's not gonna happen, right? So you need to use the system for multiple projects, at least for like a year or so, to be able to say, this is what I've done, these are the good parts and these are the bad parts, and this is what I'm gonna do in the future. And so you need to be on the system for multiple projects for the insights to be valuable, because else it's just too focused on 2 projects. And so what are you gonna do with those? You can learn from them, but they're too focused, so not good samples, let's say. But once you have multiple projects, let's say you work with a subcontractor that built this part of the asset for you really badly. You experienced a delay because of that subcontractor. You paid more because of that subcontractor. You went through a dispute because of that subcontractor. Let's just assume all of these things happen because of this subcontractor. But 2 projects from now, because the project director has changed, maybe they just keep working with the same subcontractor. And so if you knew this, you cannot work with that subcontractor anymore in the future. Or you're gonna know, like, we usually do these things really well, or we usually do these things that cause delay in the projects, and so we better not do them. Or we usually install these things in a way that are not good. Let's just make sure we take X and Y into consideration. Really, you can look into the future, but until you have the data, you really don't know what you're gonna learn from them. But those are some of the things that you can be learning. And as you are bidding for new projects, if you can show those to the asset owners that you've used technology to deliver projects not only better, not only faster, but also cheaper, what do you think is going to happen? They're just going to give the work to you. And I think in the future, they're not going to be asking people, give me the name of 5 projects that you've worked on. They're just going to try to rate contractors based on exactly the insights that they're just gonna have. So I really think that is gonna happen.
It's an amazing nugget that you just said there. The ability to have your portfolio of subcontractors who performed well, who were competitive, who got the job done, which would save time in the bid process and so on. So, you know, sometimes you might go for the lowest bid, but you with your Contillo can show the lowest bid wasn't the lowest bid because you had all these reworks. You could quantify the cost of going with the lowest bid and so on. So amazing insights that you just shared with us. Can you talk a little bit about your business model? How, you know, if I were to engage with you for my construction company, walk through a typical engagement in your business model.
Yeah, sure. So the business model is subscription based. It's a monthly fee that you pay based on an annual contract, and the value depends on like the product offering that you go for. So this 3D AI, Contillo 3D AI that I explained, and all the good things that we do is our flagship offer. But because some of the construction projects are smaller, they're not as complex, they don't have BIM models, they just want to have 360-degree views, and they just want to visually compare to the BIM. We also brought that to the market because we were doing it anyways as a part of our system. And so if they want to go with that, that is like significantly cheaper, but it cannot do all the good things that you can do through this system. And also it depends on the value of the construction project or portfolio. So let's say this is similar to the payment processing companies that take the value that goes through them and then apply like a percentage on top. But of course, that value doesn't change. It just kind of stays constant. And then you determine the monthly price that they're going to pay. And as they add more projects, they're going to get a discount. So enterprise accounts are significantly less expensive than the sum of the projects that are using Contillo for that purpose.
Excellent. And so Contillo started in 2018, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, July 2018, yes.
Yeah, very young company. And you know, within a very short amount of time, the construction industry has recognized Contillo with amazing accolades and awards for innovation and so on. Can you pick one of the awards and talk about it and why it was significant for Contillo and you as a CEO and founder?
Yeah, sure. So the government of the UK has been investing like a lot into the construction industry because in the UK, construction, like many other markets, is like 10% of the GDP. And so they knew that they had to improve this to have a better economy, if not for anything else. And so they launched these competitions that you need to like proposals for, and these get like reviewed by not only technology experts, but really big and great names from the industry. And so a few months after we was like founded, we got a really big grant through Innovate UK, which was of course non-dilutive. And then we got a second grant off the back of that. And through those two, we signed a partnership with Imperial College London, who have been working with us for the past 2 years, actually, right now. Collaborating on the more like cutting edge side of the things that we've been trying to MVP in a scale, R&D, and we've been paying for their work. So that has been amazing too. So I like that quite a lot.
Excellent. Like I said, going through kind of the list of them, you know, the Microsoft one was very impressive. So it's really amazing. So you're young. Where do you see the future of Contillo going? And where do you see the whole industry going in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I think industry is going to be more product-based as opposed to project-based, and companies are trying to build like platform-based models into place. Like offsite manufacturing is picking up here quite a lot, but I guess people, what they're ignoring is the supply chain side of it is like ginormous. So it's not like you produce something offsite and it's on-site and everything is cool and great and you're just going to build like significantly faster and better, because this requires a really big supply chain around it to work. So I think that is going to happen because manufacturing has already figured this out, has already figured out that construction, this multi-trillion-dollar industry is like an opportunity. And so they're going to come at it, of course. Construction, because it's physical, you require IoT plus AI, or you require data plus computer vision, or if it's data and NLP of some sort to make sense of like the vast amount of data that you have. And these technologies exist right now in 3D as well, because construction is a 3D environment. And so it's going to be a lot more digital. And so whatever you see in physical form, you're going to see them in digital form, not only see them, but also have the data attached to them. And I think that's pretty key in terms of making sure that we have a better earth in the future, that we are more sustainable. I think that's pretty key. In terms of Contillo, I think we are going to go towards payment automation. That's what we're going to do because payments depend on quality and progress. And we are already doing quality and progress. And so the next thing in the journey long-term is to help automate payments for the construction industry.
Excellent. You know, I love the way you associated the digitization and productivity improvements with manufacturing, you know, going to solid models from hand drawings. The construction industry went from, you know, plans to BIM models. So there's that analogy of the digitization, which has already happened.
And also the twins. I think the twins, digital twins are...
Right. And so we're kind of in this awkward phase of doing both. But just like in manufacturing, where they take that computer model to produce the physical part, the same thing's going to happen with BIM. You take that digital model, and through good information, you now have that digital twin. And, you know, with different technologies and so on, you know that building was built properly. So insurance would probably go down as well because of that.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly.
And so, you know, we haven't seen that 800% productivity improvement that manufacturing has seen over the last 50 years. We've been flat to, you know, negative productivity. Tools that Contillo, like Contillo and your product, are going to, I think, help productivity, you know, at least double because of that waste and real-time or near real-time information. So as you look forward to, you know, the getting into the payment, how do you see the world? Well, Bill Gates basically said that we are going to have to build an equivalent of a New York City every month for the next 20, 30 years because of population growth and population shift. I see Contillo as a huge productivity enabler for that.
Yeah, the problem is we need to build more, but also we don't have people, because right now there is a big gap in the construction market, and the younger people don't want to work in the construction industry that we know today, because they're like, you know, I'm not going to go to the site and just grab data using my pen and paper. Why would I do that? I don't even know what pen and paper are. I've just been, you know, doing everything on my phone. So I guess it's from both sides to make sure that you can attract the talent to the industry who are young, and they should work in construction. Construction could be very, very interesting. But but right now it's too manual. Right now we don't have skilled workforce like in the UK, as an example, specifically because of Brexit, that has even gotten worse right now. And then we need to build more, a lot more. And the money for all those key infrastructure assets at the very least come from my tax money and yours. They don't come from anywhere else.
Excellent. So you're involved with the construction management. That's just one piece within the value chain. Are you looking at partnering with upstream and downstream to maybe help the bid process, or the, how do you see Contillo fitting into the entire construction process?
Yeah, so true that right now we're working a lot on the construction phase, but I think we're going to go down to the operations phase. As I said, the digital twins are becoming really key for asset owners. And it's only 4% of the assets that we build every year, right? 96% of them already exist and they're not digital. And they don't want to just grab the data and look at them and be like, okay, yeah, this looks like my building, but they just want to make sense of the data and be able to track them and benchmark them. And not only do that for this one in London and that one in New York too, and that one in Hong Kong too. And I don't know how these are operating. And we see like a lot of demand from asset owners right now in this space.
Yes, you brought up the fact that as an asset owner, I can peel away the skin with the digital twin. I can know exactly where the wire was laid, where the HVAC was. So rather than breaking into a wall and say, oh my gosh, this is here, you then pre-plan your reconstruction, because the world 10 years from now will look very different than now. And I think having this knowledge, because of the world changing so rapidly, will be very valuable. Do you see the blockchain being involved in what you do, and what's your thoughts on it?
I've actually been working with blockchain for like a few years now. I haven't seen it improve like drastically to the level that I wanted it to see improve. Still has capacity issues to me. And so for construction, we know that because I worked with Stanford on a project, and they wanted to like track every element on blockchain, and you know what that volume is going to be. It's going to be like big. From that perspective, I think it's going to be difficult, but in terms of the supply chain of tracking things from, let's say, the manufacturer or whatever supplier to the construction, to see how supply chain is working, how much you're wasting, all of those things. I think from that perspective, sure, it's going to be interesting if it can like get around the difficulties that it has right now.
Yeah, you mentioned the payment portion, and with that payment portion, if you could tie it to the blockchain, to the completion of an activity, then that contract on the blockchain would automatically.
Yeah, like the smart contracts, exactly.
Yeah. So I thought that you would probably have been 3 steps ahead on that as well. So
yeah, the problem is the construction contracts are pretty difficult to interpret, right? They are like very complex contracts, and I'm sure we're going to get there eventually, but I don't think that construction is going to be the first industry which will get there because of the nature of the contracts, and because the industry has been trained to like kind of like manage everything through contracts and be like, if you did this right, good for you. If you didn't, you're going to pay a fine, and I'm just going to write it as a clause, and I'm just going to attach it to 50 other clauses and the contract for you and for 100 other parties. So it's this very complex system, but I'm sure we're gonna get there in terms of like.
So I think this is really interesting. That do you think Contillo because you're able to verify quality, do you think contracts are so complex is because after the fact they had to go and litigate?
Yeah.
If with your product, could you make a much simpler contract because you can verify quality real time compared to the digital image, and therefore all these little clauses and all the language wouldn't be necessary?
Yeah, I think to some, yeah, that's, I definitely think that to some extent that is gonna hold true, but to some extent that also requires a lot of shift in thinking from people, because yes, construction has been manual, but construction has been contract based. Like, I think that is the core of construction to me. And so for people to say, you don't need to transfer the risk to the next guy down the line from you, just, things are going to work. They're going to be like, no, what if they don't work? So they need to see this for a bunch of years to be able to say, yeah, it makes sense. And so let's do that. And I think as more finance companies and more insurance companies are jumping in, and as more asset owners are asking for these things, it's just gonna happen. It's that triangle, right? The person who built them, the person who owns them, the person who finances. And so if two of them come at the third, it's just gonna happen.
Excellent. Is there anything that you would like to share that I haven't asked you that
Yeah, sure. So one thing that I want to say, because we get asked this a lot by a lot of people, is we get compared to like 360-degree cameras, and they ask like how you're different from them. So a 360-degree camera output is like a digital record of the construction site. Like my photo is of me. It doesn't have anything else on top of it. And while you can use it for doing safety and other things, you cannot automate progress and quality using 360-degree photos. End of the story. And so, yes, the value is there because you have a structured digital record, but 360-degree cameras don't create digital twins. For a digital twin, you need to have insights in the asset, and you need to have the data and insights to be structured. Now, you can use that for many different things. You can use that for predictive maintenance. You can use that for following the people in your buildings and see if they're happy or how long they're living in your buildings. But the digital record of the building is not the digital twin of a building. The digital record is a photo of a building in a structured manner. I think that's what I wanted to add, because a lot of people ask us that question.
Yeah, that is a key point, the richness of the data, the point cloud versus just the image, the data behind it. Very interesting. Well, thank you very much. This has been a pleasure talking with you and learning about Contillo, and just getting to meet you and to listen to your perspectives. I expect great things from Contillo and you personally. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.